Welcome back to the Token Intelligence Show. John, one of the questions that you and I get a lot is, what can AI actually do? Which sounds like a really simple question, and I think to you and I, because we use AI all day, every day, is easy to gloss over. But it's actually kind of a hard question to answer, and you've been answering it a lot this week.
Right. It's super hard to answer. And the difference between what people think it can do and what it can actually do varies to a huge degree. And
Yes.
It varies on both sides of overconfidence and not either underconfidence or just not knowing.
Yep.
So it's so interesting.
So what are we going to accomplish today? Are we going to teach people what AI can actually do and not do? Is that what we're going to walk away with?
We're going to do something fun. I've got 5 points. I'm going to have you react live to.
Okay, great.
And then I'll tell you if I agree or disagree with
Perfect
your reaction. But no, this will be really fun because I've got the whole spectrum from, for sure, doing this today and both of us do it, to like some out there stuff.
Okay, great. Should we start with, not to insult your intelligence or my intelligence, and especially our listeners' intelligence, should we start with trying to define what AI actually is? Like, what is the mechanism? Do we want to start there?
Yeah, I think it's worth starting there because I think it's broad.
Yep.
Because AI, to some people, is... I used to use Google, and I Google things in ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And AI to other people is I have a army of agents or AI employees doing, hundreds of tasks.
Right.
Whether they're useful tasks or not, we'll get into in a minute.
Okay, great. Do you want to give your definition, or do you want me to start?
Yeah. So, I think the best common definition that I can get to is, the mechanics of it is where I would start. So you're sending text through a model provider, a large language model.
So you're sending it to OpenAI or Anthropic or XAI, etc.
Right. And then you're getting a response back. Mm-hmm. And there are a million different ways that, and like Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, OpenClaw, they're all different, versions of that.
Yep.
And then I think the places people are seeing like the value leveling up is connecting that to one or more other things, like software, other pieces of software.
Yep.
And then the other interesting component there is the ability that it can actually code really well. So that's kind of another angle.
Yep.
Well, how would you define it?
The most helpful analogy that I've used in the many that I've tried has been starting with Google Translate, because I think that's a very accessible.
Yeah.
That's a very accessible experience for people. So you can start typing into Google Translate, and traditionally on the web, the mobile app's slightly different, but you would start typing a sentence, right? So if I'm traveling to France or Italy and I want to ask where the bathroom is, Google Translate, you can say, where is and you can type R, and it will generally auto-complete the word restroom.
Okay.
And then translate that into Italian. And so a couple of things are happening there. One is that Google Translate is predicting the next word that you're going to say.
Right.
And how is it doing that? Well, they have, hundreds of millions or trillions of examples of people typing into Google, how do you say, where's the bathroom in Italian? Right. And so they have an immense amount of data that they can use to autocomplete that phrase for you.
Right.
And then they can essentially real-time translate that into Italian, right? And so there are a couple things happening under the hood. And you can think about AI as doing that same thing, but for almost any context, right? So let's say that I want to write an email to my team talking about how we need to really buckle down for the end of the quarter, right? Well, the Frontier Labs have ingested hundreds of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of
Right.
emails or examples of emails. Every blog post out there on how to write a good email to your team, they have ingested all of that information from the
All
internet.
the HubSpot content about writing
All
emails.
of the HubSpot content about writing emails, leadership, team building, clear communication, all of that. They've scraped the entire internet, right?
Right.
And so now, instead of just, where's the bathroom? Now, instead of just where's the bathroom, they have the entire context of communicating with your team, right? And so when you say, I want to write an email to my team, they can essentially autocomplete that like Google Translate, right? They're just using a huge amount of context, right? And so that's kind of how I explain AI, and it's really subject agnostic because you have the entire knowledge of the internet, right? And then probably the way that I would complete the picture is that's a very broad level, right? And so AI is very open-ended in that I can ask them how to write an email to my team. I can ask them how to write a blog post on, how to write an email to my team.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Or whatever it is, right? How to build a project on Vercel, how to, wire an AI agent up to Snowflake, to create, a data bot or something, right?
Sure.
And it has ingested so much information that it can auto-complete those things. But where it gets really powerful is when you give it specific context.
Right.
So you can say, hey, here are a bunch of conversations that I've had with my team. Here are like one-on-one transcriptions or meeting notes with everyone on my team. Here's the quarterly plan for the entire marketing organization that my boss sent me. So I want you to take that and then help me write an email to my team. And the results tend to be really, really good because you're not asking it to autocomplete on all of the information on the internet, or in the world. You're asking it to autocomplete on things that are very, very contextual.
Right.
And it's extremely good at that.
Right.
And code is a great example, right? Or writing SQL or whatever, because it's very contextual. Here's a project, here's a report, here's a database with a bunch of tables. And the autocomplete, quote unquote, gets really good. So that was very long, but that's how I explain it.
So the thing that made me think of, you going through your definition is one that I think both of us have heard before, which the translation, absolutely. And think about English to code, code to English, English to to another language, to Italian, Italian back to English. The other thing, in the most simple terms, is it's very good at reading really quickly and writing really quickly.
Yes. It can do it instantly.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. I mean, on a daily basis, I will give an AI model 50 pages of source material, and in 30 seconds it can read the context and then take action on the context. Right. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So here's my 5 things. The first one, so what can AI actually do?
Yep.
We're going to start easy, okay? And you react to it, and I'll fill in some gaps here.
Great.
Web research and deep analysis.
Excellent. Can I give a rating scale here?
Yeah. 1 to 10?
Yeah, I would say I would give it an 8 out of 10. In the current state, it used to be horrible. AI used to be horrible at web research, but the tools that it uses have become very sophisticated in the last year. So you can ask a pretty open-ended question, and it will, like the AI, agent or Anthropic, GPT, whatever you're using, it will actually issue a bunch of queries. And so the way that I think about this is, and you can actually look under the hood if you want to see what's going on.
Right.
But let's just say that I want to ask a question about the MacBook Neo that Apple just released, right? And so if I was going to do some research on that, right, like I wonder why it seems popular. Is it popular? If so, why is it popular, right? I would normally just Google, like I would just start on Google, right? In sort of the old world, right? Like how many of these are selling, and sort of issue a couple of Google queries, right? But if I ask an AI model the MacBook Neo seems to be popular. Is that true? And then if so, why is that true?
Right.
And I'm interested in that, like, because of the current economic climate, right? Like
Right.
gas prices are rising or whatever it is. And instead of me doing 3 or 4 Google searches and trying to comb through links,
Right.
it will issue 30 or 40 Google searches.
Right.
Google, let's say web searches.
Yeah.
It scans all the links. It tries to find the most relevant links. It will actually visit those web pages. It will like read all of the content on
Right.
each of those web pages and determine the most relevant content.
Right.
And then return that back as a summary and cite the sources, which is great. And so if you extrapolate that out for a given topic, deep research has become way, way faster. Way faster.
Yeah. Yeah. I would definitely agree on that one. So when it first came out, like people were really excited about it. I would vote this probably around an 8 as well, but as far as like capability, but I think it maybe is falling down a little bit as far as popularity. And this is just actually really simple. So if you have Claude or GPT on your phone or use it on your computer, there's a button that you hit to tell it to spend more time researching a thing.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I know about this. I use it, especially like at work. I forget to use it.
Yeah.
Because if you tell it like search the web, like it'll do it, but it'll like just search a couple things.
Right.
But you have to like flip the switch to get it to like search a bunch of things.
Yep.
I forget to turn it on.
And
honestly.
that's not available on every plan. You actually have to pay a lot more for that.
Yeah. So I think that's a really interesting thing. Like if you're on a free tier, to your point, you might not have it. And even me, who like is paying for it, totally forget to just flip the switch.
But yeah, that's interesting. And I think that's a really good point for anyone who has tried this and felt like AI is not great at that. One is that on the cheaper free tiers, it's going to be worse. And the reason is because it's an economic, it's expensive for them to do that.
And just an order of magnitude thing. I hadn't used it as much recently. I've used it a couple things this week. It'll visit. I think I did something this week. It visited 383 individual websites.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And last time I remember looking, because often you just ignore what it's
right.
doing.
Exactly.
The last time I dug into that, it was probably dozens.
Yep.
But I mean hundreds of sites.
It's very useful.
Yeah.
But it's not cheap, and you do have to be intentional.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Next one. We're going to go the full opposite end of the spectrum.
Great.
All right. Ready? So number 1 was web research and deep analysis. I think we both agree around an 8 out of 10. Number 2, and this has been splashy press headline, YouTubers, running a fully autonomous one-person company.
What, 1 or 2 out of 10,
Okay,
I'm going to say.
Yeah.
1 or 2 out of 10. The challenge actually goes back to it goes back to the input problem that we talked about when we were defining what AI is.
Right.
And if you give an AI model really specific context,
Right.
it can do the quote unquote autocomplete really, really well.
Yep.
And the challenge is, I think there are 2 challenges. The simple challenge is the economics of trying to ingest the entire context of the world into an AI model and the cost of that. Right. So you could theoretically, have an agent that's scanning the news for a very specific set of topics and ingesting that context and looking at it, and reading every transcription from every call in the company, and they're just, but that would be it would be so expensive that it wouldn't be worth the amount of, like, the cost wouldn't be worth it, right?
Right.
But all of that information is what humans can naturally ingest as we go throughout day-to-day stuff, especially if you're paying attention, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to make good decisions with a business, because, like, people who are great business people, I mean, so often what I see is that they are just good at reading a lot of context and putting it together and making a great decision, right?
Right.
And AI cannot do that in the current state.
Right.
It just can't do that in the current state.
Yeah.
And so that's like the basic, that's the basic economic side of it. Like you just can't ingest all that information. And then I think the other barrier is that the context within a business changes so quickly. And that's a real challenge for AI models, right? Like if you think about one particular task that needs to be done, right? So an AI agent needs to perform an analysis, or for me, an AI agent needs to like do a bunch of research and like generate a draft or an outline that I can review for, whatever. And incredibly powerful within that sort of defined like narrow scope. But if you multiply that out across all of the decisions that need to be made, across the roles in even a very small business,
Right.
and the amount of context that's needed for that, beyond even the expense, like the context with all these different variables is constantly changing.
Right.
The priorities of the business are changing. And that's really, really difficult. And I don't think that's going to change. I don't necessarily see that as a problem that, AI is going to overcome
Right.
one day. That's just the chaos of living in our world.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer it a 1 and a 3, depending on the situation.
Okay.
1 is almost every business. 1 or 0.
Mm-hmm.
Like not a thing.
Yep.
The 3, and this is the trouble, the 3 or 4 or something is if you are in a very niche business of some sort of content business where you're doing, like influencer type stuff. So there's this weird cycle of like the people that are into AI and like do podcasts or do YouTube or do whatever as their job. And they're seeing that like, oh, I could, like we just talked about research, that being an 8 out of 10 greatly benefits them because all they've ever done is follow headlines, look at press releases, look at maybe some podcasts look at like research papers, but mostly like press releases and scrape the internet, pull all the headlines in, create content, make video, whatever they're doing. That motion is is way over here as far as like autonomous company for $1 billion.
Agreed.
High,
Yeah.
But it is such an edge case, but all of them are personally experience how awesome it is. So it gets, I think, exaggerated.
I
for
agree
everyone.
with that. Yep.
Yeah.
But it plays towards exactly what we were saying, which is that in a single dimension, the context is highly related. And so you get asymmetric value there.
Exactly.
But those types of businesses are very one dimensional.
Right.
As soon as you move to an additional dimension, which most businesses are extremely complex, that's where things get hard.
Right. And the only other thing is actually it goes into our next one, so I won't start
yes.
yet. Okay, number 3. So we're pretty fully autonomous company. We're pretty low there. I agree with that. Number 3, I think this is the most controversial one. We've got a great Reddit post for this one. Creating professional grade creative work. Images, graphics.
Wow. Okay. Wow. This is a very...
I'm going to pull up this
is
post
very controversial.
because this is something that came up this week or last week.
Do you want me to respond before you read the Reddit post? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can I have a split answer?
Yeah.
So I think that I'm going to have a couple of hot takes here. Okay. There's a lot of really bad creative work in the world.
Pre-AI.
Okay. Generally.
Okay.
Right. I mean, if you talk to, it's sort of the classic cliche of if you talk to a designer or even if you talk to someone who builds software, they kind of say like, yeah, I mean, most design is not great, right? Or like most software is pretty bad.
Yeah, I would definitely say that for sure.
Yeah, you've said that before, right? It's like, most software is like pretty bad.
Right.
And so when you have like an amazing experience or you see like truly amazing design, you're like,
Right.
wow, that's pretty
Right.
awesome, you know? So I think that AI will help improve the low watermark for design in the
Yeah.
world generally.
Yep.
And because it's extremely time consuming,
Yep.
it requires a very specific skill set, and AI creates this form factor where, because I think you and I are probably both this way, where I'm not a designer,
No.
but I'm decent at saying, I think that this type of thing would look
Right.
good, right? Our logo is a good example of
Yeah.
that, right? We wanted something that looked like it was printed on like a, you know,
Yeah.
a brown bag,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, this is cool, right?
Right.
But it would be very difficult for me to actually create that.
Right.
But with AI, I can describe it and it can produce
Right.
way, 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 way better results than I
sure.
would have been
For
able
sure.
to do on my own, right?
Yep.
Okay, if we go to the other end of the spectrum and we think about brands that have an extremely opinionated brand, very, you know, designers who curate very carefully, you know, is AI leverage there? I think it can create some leverage,
Right.
but it's way, way less.
Right.
Way, way less.
Yep.
I think it creates leverage in taking the design work from the designer and translating it into different formats, right? I
Oh,
want to create
definitely.
a set of ads. I want to,
Right.
you know, create an image for these, you know, for a blog post, or like iterate on billboard ideas, but based on existing design.
Right.
And so those process things that sort of makes those faster. But, you know,
Right.
at least, I mean, I work with some, industry renowned designers
Right.
on a daily basis. And it's still really hard to be a truly phenomenal designer.
Yeah. Okay. This one, I think I have an interesting take on. One of the superpowers of being able to use AI is to be able to express things in words,
Yep.
written or
Mm-hmm.
via voice, which is coming along. But one of the things that a really good designer can do is express that.
Yep.
Use a logo, for example, in words, and obviously the creative capacity of like what looks
Yep.
good together and all that stuff too. Which that, I mean, is getting easier to steer in AI, but it's still like kind of hard to steer.
Yep.
And it feels more intangible, like what looks good together, like proportions,
Totally.
like that feels way more
Totally.
intangible.
Yep.
But I think one of the interesting things that you can see anywhere in the content or design world is, or nature, like really good designers copy nature,
Yep.
right? Like
100%.
patterns and proportions and all the things.
Yep.
So one of the cool things about AI, since imaging is a language that it speaks, is you can take, so you've got a poster behind you, you can take a picture of that poster and be like, describe this layout and font, like all this to me in words.
It's a translation tool.
Yeah, you can use the translation
Wow,
tool.
Yep.
Take a picture of like the cover of that book or something you like, or say I was decorating. I don't know any of decorating language, but I'm like, I like this room, and they're like, that is like art, like whatever, like French modern country. Like I would never know those words,
Right.
And then you can feed that back into the model and get better results.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that's one of the most.
It creates a
interesting-
feedback loop.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah,
Yep.
that's a little non-intuitive.
Yep.
But I agree that I think we brought the average up, but I still think there's a pretty sizable gap between
Yeah, I
like
agree.
best.
I agree.
All right, Reddit. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a Reddit post about X. So process that for a minute. Okay, I just generated an image in the style of a Monet painting using AI. Please describe in as much detail as possible, describing an image, what makes this inferior to a real Monet painting. And then just like wall of comments on X. I'll read a couple. There's a certain harshness, no soft blending of colors, no depth, no symbiosis of the elements.
Was it an actual Monet and they were just trolling?
It's all borked nonsense with no sense of space. Yeah, so like millions of views, tons of comments, and it was just an actual Monet. Yeah.
God, I love that.
But we are kind of there.
Yep.
Not fully symmetrically, but especially on like something as like famous as a Monet, that it really can pixel for pixel be nearly indistinguishable, if not indistinguishable from the original.
Right.
Which is the point of the post.
Which
even
is the
though
point
it's
of the
kind
post.
Trolling.
I actually made a joke to one of my friends the other day who's an artist, digital media, photography, etc. But I said we were talking about paintings, and I said, Jackson Pollock is, that it's kind of funny because now that I have kids, I view Jackson Pollock differently because I'm like, kids just sort of create Jackson Pollock-esque, dripping.
Right.
And his response is really interesting. He doesn't have kids, but he kind of chuckled and he said, yeah, I mean, if you think about things like that, it's the time in history and the current like culture of art that really imbues it with importance. Which is interesting. So it kind of goes back to context anyways.
Yeah. And I even feel like I don't know a lot about art, but we even refer to art in the context of history, like a period, and the art is
absolutely.
With the period.
Yep.
Okay, this is a good one. Pretty obvious, I think. Coding.
Yes.
Oh, do we give numbers on the last one though?
Well, we split it.
It's
difficult.
Yeah, I agree.
It's probably 50-50. I don't know.
I agree.
All
right,
coding. I'm going to go
like software coding.
Yep.
Of course.
Yep. I'm going to go. Ooh, this is a hard one for me. I'm going to go 7 out of 10. And the reason I'm going to go 7 out of 10 is because, actually, this is the reason I'm going 7 out of 10. I get the chance to work with some unbelievable software engineers in my job. I mean, really phenomenal. Pre-AI, renowned, in Silicon Valley.
Right.
And not one of them still write software the old way.
Sure.
They only write software with coding agents.
Right.
That's just how they do it. And so AI has fundamentally changed the way that those people do their jobs.
Yeah. So they can do their jobs a lot faster. Do they all go home early now?
Do not go home early.
That's funny, but like outsider looking in, I think a lot of people they probably don't have anything to do anymore.
Right. Yes, which is very easy to think that, but I think it's very easy for us to make a lot of assumptions about the way that things were pre-AI that are skewed because of our experience with AI, or sorry, actually even better, are our perceptions of AI.
Right.
And so, and this goes back to something that we said before. Most software in the world is still not great.
Right.
And so, because building truly great software, or really become like creating great art or writing or whatever, is not finding a silver bullet. It's like an immense amount of hard work and iteration to get to the point where you craft something that's meaningful.
Right.
And so when it comes to generating software, if you talk to someone who was previously a phenomenal engineer, and now they use coding agents, what's happening is that they are cycling through all of the bad ways, bad ideas, experiments way, 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 way faster.
Right.
And so I think what's going to happen is that the quality of software will actually increase over time, kind of the same way with design, but for different reasons.
An elevation of the average.
An elevation of the average, right? Yeah. Because, there's a lot of junk that's going to be produced as well. But the people who are wielding it within their craft as I think the conversation about people who are not software developers.
Yeah, I think that's a different conversation.
Generating code is different. So I'm talking within the realm of like, these are professionals, right? Yeah. Who can do this without AI.
Right.
And I think the general quality will go up because you can just run through the cycles so much faster, right? And so there may be 10 ways to do something, and in the old world, it would have taken you months, right? And so
Yeah.
you make an educated guess on the best way to do
Yeah.
it. You make an educated guess on the best way to do it, and you choose to spend your time as wisely as possible. And so you execute the one or two best ways and maybe test them, right?
You would never test the other 7 or 8.
Right. And so now imagine you can do 50 and you can do it in one day.
Right.
And that is possible now.
Yeah.
And so these software engineers are you know, there are consequences to that.
Right.
I say 7 out of 10 because AI still makes a lot of mistakes, and you still actually have to review code that's going to go in production, especially if it impacts real users and has real security implications. And so, the industry is still figuring out what that looks like.
Right. Cool. Yeah. I mean, coding I think is up near research for me. But I also think that, and this probably, I'm just not a designer, so I can't say this authoritatively, but I bet designers would feel the same way, where it's essentially like, okay, who's using it? Is it somebody that has no idea about design and like is just trying to like generate images?
Totally.
Like, sure, they're better than average than maybe they would have been.
Yep.
But for coding, I think similar to what you're saying, it drastically increases the average, and it also increases the like standardization. Like like code, you know, even now, like you're trying to implement user authentication or whatever, like it's going to start looking pretty uniform if we're all using basically the same 1 or 2 tools to do the thing, which is interesting, right?
Yeah.
And I think over time that elevates security and standards and stuff that helps everyone.
Yep.
I think the gaps there is a gap that's always been there, because I've always been more on the operations side than the development side. Data and operations is it works for me locally on my computer is not the same as production grade software,
exactly.
which is kind of like what you're saying. And now we have an even larger base of people in the like it works for me category that like makes the jump of like, yeah, like cool, let's just do it for the 10,000 people that work here now, and just feels hand wavy about it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
and I still think there's a gap there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's why I did 7 out of 10, not 8 out of 10. But I think that gap will be closed over time.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, last one. This is one I've been into recently.
Okay,
we haven't talked too much about it, but AI voice.
Okay. In what regard? Just in general,
so
or like as input or output, or?
Think about it. If chat is a product and voice is a product, think about it that way.
Yep.
And then applications would be like sales, customer support, whatever. I think there's that. Like that's the practical of how people are using voice, and then. And personal assistant. So personal assistant, sales, customer service. Let's do that. Personal assistant, and then like sales, customer service, like classic phone tree use case.
Okay, I'm going 9 out of 10 on this in terms of utility, but I also think that it's the most underutilized. I think it's very, very underutilized. And the reason I say that is because I'm increasingly using voice as input. And so I've spent decades typing, and I don't even want to know how many words I type a day, into AI chatbot inputs. But the power of voice as input is significant. And the technology is good enough now to where you can essentially stream of consciousness, and it will it will live clean up everything into like a pretty clean input for an AI model as a prompt. And then voice output is really good. And I don't know what this is like on the lower plans, because I generally use it with an enterprise plan on Claude or GPT. But it's very common for me to be in the car alone. I drop the kids off at school and then I'm driving to the office. And I will just turn on conversation mode in GPT or Claude. And talk through a project that I'm working on or an idea
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's unbelievable.
Which do you like more?
GPT's form factor is better.
Agreed.
It's way better on voice.
Yep.
I mean, the output is, I don't know, GPT is a better experience.
Here, okay, so this is I think I'm glad we're like ending on this one because I think it's so interesting. General public experience with voice, like
Probably
you call
horrible.
call your bank or call
Yes.
customer service at some like retail store or something, and it's like awful, and you're
Yep.
like yelling at it, and you're
Agreed.
like dialing 0 a bunch of times, like can I
Yep.
talk to a human?
Yep.
So I think that's like a common perception of like voice, but in actuality, couple of things. One, Grok came out with a new voice model this week. It's really good. Check it out. GPT is still my favorite.
Yep. It's awesome.
It's awesome. I use it a lot. The edges that are frustrating for me right now, and I don't know if it's security or just like they just haven't done it. Is it does not integrate it with anything. So when you're in voice
Yep.
mode, you can't
Yep.
like tell it like, hey, what's new in my inbox or what's whatever. There's like I think calendar integrations works, but like basically nothing works.
Yep.
But I think that's coming. I think people will love it.
Yep.
And the other like axis here is and this is a silly thing, but if you think about Siri, if that's like your point of comparison, voice to text, long form, like talk to it for 20 minutes, the like latest and best models are way better than Siri or anything that you've ever used.
It is astounding.
Yeah.
I cannot overstate how good it is.
They're remarkably good, even for the podcast. So
Yes.
we record this, and then we don't use, like we have software that we use to record the podcast, but we use a separate external model to process this to get a transcript. And it is awesome.
Yep.
Like super clean.
I think that's the reason I'm 9 out of 10, because based on everything you just said, I should be lower, but
Right.
I'm so impressed. Even though you're right, like the utility is not quite there. Actually, I mean, you can still, again, I'm probably skewed on this because a lot of the things I use are on enterprise plans, which,
Right.
Have more functionality.
Right.
You can, sort of, even WhisperFlow can abstract some of this out. By,
True.
Sort of like
Right.
cleaning up your stuff and then putting it directly into the tool as a prompt.
Right.
But it's so useful
Right.
in the current state
It
that
is.
it's hard to see a world in which it's not the dominant way that you communicate with AI, in the future.
And we've always thought it would be.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that
like,
interesting?
Like Star Trek
Yeah.
or like
Science fiction.
any
Totally.
science fiction. That's
Totally.
how we thought
Yeah,
it
yeah.
would be. So
Exactly.
that is the part of
Isn't
science
that
fiction
interesting? Yeah.
that I think is coming true right now.
Okay.
All right.
That's what you can do and what you can't do with AI. So let's just run through it again really quickly.
All right.
So web search and deep research.
Yep.
We landed on an 8 out of 10.
Yep. Okay. Running a fully autonomous one-person company. Average, our scores were about a 2.
Average of 2.
Creating professional grade creative work. I think
We were
We're
split. So it's
split on that
50-50. Yep.
Yep. And then coding, 7.
7-ish out of 10.
Yep. And then voice.
Yeah.
Eric's a 9. I didn't give a score on this one.
Yeah.
I'm like a 7.5 just because of the edge. Of
Okay.
Can I just ask it about
That's
my
probably
calendar?
that's probably a more
Like,
accurate
just tell me
assessment,
what's on my calendar, please.
Yeah, it's coming.
So it's coming, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining Token Intelligence, and we will catch you on the next one.